Yeah, the Olympics MVP is so new. This is only the second time they've done it in sort of the modern era that it's not something that people even think about really. I'm not even sure there's a trophy. Okay. And like they opened the voting like 2 days before the end of during the semifinals. And I was like, well, why would you vote now?
And so I think that's how LeBron gets the MVP. I mean, for Steph to have 36 and then I think 26 and to make 17 threes in the semifinal and final in games that they probably would have lost had Steph not made those shots. He, of course, is the MVP for this tournament.
When it comes to the mainstream NBA media, their takes, their claims, their predictions are wrong 90% of the time. And if you guys know me, I despise them.
I despise who you are at a cellular level.
But here's the thing. When someone's right, they're right. In this instance, the NBA media, they are right. As Steph Curry this year's Olympics was the rightful MVP winner, and now guys like Colin Cowherd, Stephen A. Smith, even Nick Wright coming out of the woodwork and expressing the same sentiment.
There is only one guy and only one reason Team USA won the gold. And it's not LeBron, it's Steph.
And you saw LeBron, and you saw KD, and you saw everybody deferring to Steph Curry, because when you get hot like that, you know who to give the damn ball to. So that's what it is. I thought Steph Curry deserved the MVP because of that.
I think I'm going to surprise the audience with my response here, because I think they expect me to have a full-throated defense of why LeBron was clearly the tournament's MVP. I would have liked co-MVPs.
When you see someone like Nick Wright's LeBron and Steph should have been co-MVPs, what is he admitting? He's basically saying Steph, well, you know, he should open the big-time games. He was the actual MVP. For Nick Wright to say that, it's downright shocking. Now, in terms of the Olympic MVP, this award, in my opinion, should not exist. As the Olympics, it's not about one player, one guy, or one figure. It's about the team, the country, winning gold, and succeeding. Now, if you're going to have the MVP, at least give it to the guy who actually deserves it, that being Steph Curry. And I don't want to rehash old history too much, but Steph in the pool play games was not great. The medal rounds versus Brazil, Serbia, France, he was fantastic and USA's best player. As even versus Brazil, Steph, had 7 points, 2 or 3 shooting, only played 16 minutes. And those 7 points, they came all in the first half. Now, even with that being said, in the medal rounds, 22 points per game, 2.3 assists, 22 made shots, and 17 made threes. And his plus minus was a plus 58, the highest on the team. And like I said prior to this, Brazil, not the toughest opponent in the world. Their two toughest opponents, Serbia and France. And Steph in those games, what did he do? Averaged 30 points per game, 36 versus Serbia, and 24 versus France. And in both those games, closed them out in the fourth quarter. As looking at Steph in those games combined, had 19 points on perfect shooting. Compared to LeBron James, destroyed him in the clutch the final 3 minutes.
I'm actually embarrassed for you.
If anyone says Steph wasn't the best player in the biggest games, they're smoking crack. The entire argument against Steph revolves on pool play, which is basically the regular season for Olympic standards. And for a pool play for the USA historically, they don't lose. As in the last 4 Olympics total, they've lost only 1 game, that being to France in 2021. So in all reality, the pool play games for USA really don't matter that much. The biggest games, the toughest games, are in the medal rounds. Again, versus France and Serbia, when Steph by far was the team's best player. And here's one thing I want to point out with the NBA media being massive hypocrites. As looking at LeBron James in exhibition play, his play was nearly identical to Steph Curry. As looking at the first 3 games, what did he do? Versus Canada, had 7 points, USA, won pretty comfortably. Versus Australia, only 10 points on 38% shooting. Kind of a shaky performance. Then versus Serbia, only had 11 points. So 3 games right there from LeBron James, where he played subpar, average, mediocre. He was decent. Now the next 2 games LeBron James cranked it up to a 10 and played phenomenal. Versus South Sudan, as well as Germany. And in both those games was phenomenal in the clutch. Now, after those 2 great games, the NBA media, what were they saying? Well, LeBron James, the best American player, top 5 player, can carry this team to gold. After 2 great exhibition games, they were saying that. And what did they ignore? The 3 games that really were kind of blowouts and didn't matter. When LeBron James played great, they were crowning him immediately. Where is that same energy for Steph Curry in the actual Olympics when it mattered most? In the pool play, was kind of shaky, hit or miss. Then the medal rounds was fantastic. Why weren't they crowning Steph Curry, giving him praise as the quote-unquote best American who carried the team? The answer is fairly obvious.
It's a mystery! It's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside an enigma!
And looking at Steph's NBA career at the 2018 Finals, once again a classic case of big-time clutch moments mattering much more than actual raw stats. As looking at Steph in this series, out of the 4 games, he was Golden State's best player in 3 of them. As in Game 1, had 29 points, Game 2, 33, and in Game 4 to close it out, had 37. Steph for the entire series was Golden State's best player in 3 games. KD, only 1 of them. But in that 1 game Durant, what did he do? Hit the big time clutch shot, the dagger shot, the memorable shot. And Steph's overall numbers in this series, despite a bad Game 3, still 27, 7, and 6 on great shooting. But it didn't matter, because KD had a big time moment, the big shot. That's my entire argument of the Olympic MVP. Yes, raw stats are nice, but how do you play in the clutch and the closing moments when the chips are down, it's nut crunch time? How do you play in those moments? Unfortunately for Steph in 2018, he shrunk in those moments, and of course, lost out on the MVP. But in 2024, rose in those moments, and again, lost out on the MVP. And one more point I do want to make that I found out as I'm making the video, the quote-unquote Olympic MVP. The voting for this award was done before the semifinals of the Olympics. So think about that. Steph's games versus France and Serbia didn't even count, but some of this MVP counts for the entire tournament. How does that make sense?
So the MVP voting is a little funny. They put up a QR code in the media room starting before the semifinal. Oh. So, and anybody, basically, like, it's media and then FIBA experts. So I'm not even sure who that entails. But basically, it's like if you have access to that media room beginning on the semifinal round day. And so I think that's how LeBron gets the MVP. I mean, for Steph to have 36 and then I think 26 and to make 17 threes in the semifinal and final in games that they probably would have lost had Steph not made those shots. He, of course, is the MVP for this tournament.
The voting for the MVP being done before the finals and the semifinals once again proves Steph, if they included that, would have been the MVP. But unfortunately for him, they did. And what does the award come down to once again? The games versus Puerto Rico, Brazil, lesser opponents than France and Serbia in actual medal rounds. So here's the deal. If you're going to give it an MVP, make it for the entire tournament, not pool play and the first round. Because I can guarantee if the voters actually voted on this award after those 2 games with France and Serbia, Steph, by a long shot, would have won the award. So that right there is the end of the video. And once again, Steph getting robbed, cheated, and is shortchanged by the media. As always, thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time.